I am in Kyoto today checking out some watches. I'm gonna visit a few used watch stores to see what they have in stock, and hopefully this will help propel me to making a decision on what my next watch or brand will be.
I am at the Kishi Market of Kyoto, headed for our first destination. Kyoto is a beautiful city, more laid back in its energy compared to Osaka and the greater Tokyo region, still with its own share of tourists. Unlike the previous cities in Japan I've visited, the watch stores in Kyoto are considerably further apart from each other, with some being 15-minute walk in between, 20 if you account for the heat. Our first stop is supposed to be Okura, however there appeared to be a Seiko boutique just before it, so I decided to take a look inside. The Shrine of King Seikos. The store was as you would imagine of a GS boutique, full of watches of similar silhouettes, each with their own interesting colored dials. The store had two sides, one for Grand Seikos and one for Seikos. A few dials here really caught my eye, but knowing I shouldn't be buying a Seiko right now, I left for the first real stop, Okura. This was also a smaller store, but with quite an interesting collection. A Milgauss, and then a modern Air King for 11.5 Canadian, with a green OP36 to its left. And we finally found it. A Maserati Blue Daytona, coming in at 27,000 Canadian. Couple digests. Note the rose gold fluted one in the middle with the discontinued brick dial. The price of this one will continue to rise throughout the years. Two Yachtmasters, both with platinum bezels, priced fairly between 14 to 15.5 respectively. A 16710 and a modern Pepsi beside it. Beautiful Swiss-made dial, sans serif bezel and solid end links. 16,000 Canadian for this piece. A few modern ceramic GMT Master 2s, and a blacked out current Gen Explorer 2 selling for 14,000 Canadian. Fat 4 Kermit for 23. I feel like I've seen more Fat 4 Kermits than regular 4s here in Japan. A couple steel bezel Daytonas, and a smaller Breitling Navitimer with the old logo, reference number A41330, very beautiful and definitely has the vintage look. Excuse me as I try to fight with the shadow here, coming in at only 3,000 Canadian after tax exempt. A range of Tudors. The middle one is something of an anomaly to find in the wild these days, which is a black dial Smiley 79220 featuring an ETA movement. I've actually once owned this watch for a week. This was a couple years back. On the wrist, it looks very similar to the 58, but the difference is very evident in person. Not that I would want to own both, though I feel like this watch is just a bit more special. The leather strap combination is being sold for 5,000 Canadian here. Alright, the next stop is Big Moon. This store is absolutely gorgeous, probably the best one in Kyoto. I wasn't able to get a shot of the whole store, but was able to capture some of the cabinets. In what felt like a 400 square foot display space, they managed to have a bunch of current and neo-vintage Rolexes, Tudors, but also other brands like La Chutes and Bell & Ross. Peep that Harrods Tudor going for 7,000 Canadian. Couple Pams, a few Frankie Muellers and a Blancpain beside them. Then a Shohei Ohtani Seiko. This has to be my favorite Seiko release of recent, though I still can't stomach the recent prices. 2,000 Canadian for this. Here is a Turnograph on the wrist. It wears a little small. I like the silhouette of the 36, but I've begun to think they belong best on Jubilee bracelets. It gives them a bit of that infinite bracelet effect. It's a very cool watch though, especially with the pops of red, coming in at 11,000 Canadian. Next up is a Tudor 925 Silver Black Bay 58. Shout out to the viewer who recommended me try this watch out. This is my first time ever getting hands on with this watch, as usually stores keep this watch serene wrapped up to prevent tarnishing. On the wrist. I don't know if it's the lighting, even at the same size as the Steel 58 it manages to look better, but maybe it's the grass is greener on the other side effect. Seeing it in the flesh, the case actually sparkles. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this watch feels totally different from the Steel 58. The shimmer is on a whole nother level. Display case back looking as pretty as ever, exposing the MT 5400 movement. But yeah, I gotta put this down, otherwise I'm gonna end up with another Tudor. This one is priced at 4200 Canadian, by the way. Well, over and onwards to another Tudor. This one is a 79280 Panda, glossy dial with black numerals on a 5-linked bracelet. No Tiger reference. Luminova dial, the bracelet on this one is super clean. You can see the clasp. I think it has been polished, but a job very well done nonetheless. I'm afraid to scratch it just by holding it. Again, I don't know if it's the shot, but everything seems to shine more than usual here. Make sure you come check out Big Moon if you guys ever are in Kyoto. It's about a 10-minute walk from the main strip, but it's 1000% worth the trip. Look at how sharp those edges are. They look absolutely brilliant. On the wrist, it's got a lot more of a chilled out vibe compared to my 79260. This almost feels like the definition of a vacation watch. I'm usually not a fan of this 5-link bracelet, but think it works well for this configuration. This one is priced at 6,700 Canadian, which is a little high, but it makes me think maybe this is a new old stock example? A short 3-minute walk east of Big Moon was an upscale assembly of stores. We went in for a quick ice cream and dango set, as it was just too hot to be walking without a break. The next stop is JB Works. This store is brand new, so it's not even on Google Maps yet. They got a beautiful grape dial 116000. The color is a bit feminine, but nonetheless a very gorgeous watch. And here are a couple ceramic watch prices for those of you who are interested.
I think out of this range of watches, my pick would be the Bruce Wayne on Oyster. It's monochromatic, so it's easy to pull off, and you can even pass it off as a sub if you turn the bezel just right.
3 Milgaus's side by side. The Black Dial clear glass is priced at 13 Canadian and the Black Dial GV at 13.5. The electric blue GV though at a whopping 18.5. A somewhat expensive previous Gen Explorer 2 Black Dial at 13.5. It makes the Y1 seem cheap in comparison. A 16570 Black Dial priced at 12,000 Canadian dollars. Pretty pricey. And then a Black Dial 116520 priced at 32,000 and a two-tone champagne to his right coming in at 23,000 Canadian. And this is where I met my new love, a 126-200 slate Roman, or better known as the Wimbledon Datejust, on steel bezel and a Jubilee bracelet. This is priced at 15,000 Canadian. I used to think that Datejust cases in the 36mm size were a bit too small, but now I'm coming around big time. I regret not trying this watch on right there and then, and I hope to get hands-on with it in the near future. But something tells me if I tried this watch on, I couldn't have stopped myself from pulling the trigger. It just looked so good. We made another quick stop next door at Kos Donuts. I imagine this is pronounced the same way as how Kuo is pronounced. It's like someone asked them how many vowels they want in their brands and they just said, yes. This place was a massive donut store with its own production bakery inside. We grabbed a few bites of the matcha and the hojicha donut with little Rice Krispie crumbs on top and made our way to the next location. Exiting the Shinkyo Goku Street, we are back on the main strip. A quick foray into a mall lent itself to a few pretty cool Seiko vibes. A couple good-looking GMTs priced at 660 each. See, these are more like the prices Seiko should be charging. 2 Outline watches. This is a Japanese brand frequently making homages of vintage Rolexes. They appear quite frequently in domestic watch magazines. A collaboration Hublot with the leather brand Berluti. I'm actually a fan of both brands. I think it's a very cool dial, although I'm not sure if I would prefer this over a regular metal dial with fine finished indices. A Speedy Reduced 3510 coming in at under 3,000 Canadian. This is kind of well priced, although the tag says that it's deviating by 22 seconds a day, so a service might be required soon. Another Speedy Reduced. This one is pricier, as prices on these haven't really changed much since I bought mine for under 2,000 Canadian some 4 to 5 years ago. And another 3510. This one is full kit, priced $500 more, but without the timekeeping issues. A white dial Daytona priced at $38,000, looking like it's ready to be taken home. Just not by me, because I don't got the dough for that. And a very expensive 14060. This is 2nd Street, which is one of Japan's largest thrift shop chains, so it's a little weird that their prices are all over the place. I think this is the first Oysterquartz I've seen all trip. You can see by the price that there are definitely a degree of rarity to these. Alright, and a couple Daytonas to wrap up this location.
On my way to the next store, Quark Kyoto. I'm pretty interested to see what they have in stock because Quark is a group of companies. They got multiple locations throughout Japan, and from the ones that I've visited before in Shinjuku, in Nakano, there's a thunder going on. They have some pretty good stock. They have a lot of pre-ceramic Rolexes, modern Rolexes, Pateks, Tudors. Although with Tudors, like it's slim picking. Sometimes they have some rare models from the 2000s and 90s, but sometimes they just have your standard Black Bays and Rangers and whatnot. So let's go check out what they have, and hopefully we can find something interesting.
And here it is. I've grown to have high expectations of Quark, as all the stores I've visited of theirs have been furnished out immaculately. Unfortunately though, this store had almost as many no filming signs as they had watches. Well, maybe like a 1-to-5 ratio. It wasn't that crazy, but still enough to deter me to film. I did find what the Tom Hardy of watch YouTubers would call a unicorn, linked to his channel below. But the real question is this a 1,000,000% buy? On the wrist, wow, so gorgeous I almost dropped it.
Just got out of Quark, and as usual, the same as Nakano, they don't let you film in there. However, I did manage to get footage of the 79280 with the ghost dial. I've wanted to try this watch on for a while now because it has such a nuanced and cool dial. You know how like we like the faded ghost bezels and the quote-unquote tropical dials. It's got this slate gray mixed with white sub dial that I really liked in photos. However, getting hands-on with it, it felt a little feminine. It's very much similar to the 3513 Omega Speedmaster Reduced with the white dial. I don't think that watch is something that I would have on my list, although I do really still like the steel bezel of the 79280. In the store, there were quite a few selections of pre-ceramic Rolexes, GMT Master 2s, Explorer 2s. I find that there's a lot of pre-ceramic, or so not pre-ceramic, they're all pre-ceramic. But the 5-digit Explorer 2s, there were a ton of them. There were also a Frank Mueller Long Island, not the Curvex one, but the rectangular one. There were also some IWC Pilots, there were some Grand Seikos, and there weren't a lot of watches in the store, unlike the Nakano location, but it was very well furnished. They had like a ton of Rolex magazines, different watch magazines. I think watchfan.com is a big one here in Japan. I wish I could have gotten footage of it, but unfortunately, you guys will just have to use your imagination or try to find them on YouTube. I'm sure they got the channel. Also, I think they have an Instagram page if you guys want to go check them out. But yeah, it was one of the most beautiful stores and definitely felt more like a lounge instead of somewhere that you go to buy watches. Overall, the watch shopping experience in Kyoto has been excellent. I want to say it feels a lot more laid back, just like the city itself compared to your Osakas or your Tokyo. The people are very nice, the shops are cozy, not a ton of selection, but the prices aren't bad as well. I guess like, again, compared to Nakano where everything is at one place all at once, there's definitely more price matching going on. Whereas in Kyoto, because there's not as much selection to pick from, I guess the shop aren't under as much pressure to keep the prices low. So if you are looking to buy a watch, I still think, as a lot of people say out there, that Nakano Broadway is the best place to go. But just to check things out, enjoy the vibe, look at some more unique models, especially if you find it on the sellers website like Okura, like Quark, you should definitely visit Kyoto to check them out in person if you just so happen to be in the area or you find something that interests you. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.